Before watching this video, I recommend you guys go check out the cinematic for Heroes of the Storm. I'll post it up on the screen as annotated. You can click on it and go watch it, and then come right back here, and we'll talk about what you just watched. Hey everyone, and welcome to a Heroes of the Storm gameplay analysis, overview, and announcement-based video. A lot of people asked me, how was Heroes of the Storm? I played it at BlizzCon, and I loved it, and there's a lot of different things that they're doing with it. It is currently in very heavy alpha. It is very deep alpha, and something that you have to be aware of, but there's a lot of cool things they're doing with it, and being the MOBA person that I am, the MOBA background that I have, I'm going to go ahead and analyze it from a competitive standpoint and then from a game success standpoint, and we'll see how it stacks up. So let's go ahead and cover what's different about Heroes of the Storm and what you can look forward to. Number one, there is team-based leveling. What this means is your team has a level and everyone shares that level. No matter what, if someone's getting experience somewhere, everyone else is getting it. So no one will fall behind. No one will ever be, left in the dust. No support players will be super underleveled and just be the sacrifice for their team. Everyone will always be kept up, and that gives more room for the support characters to do their thing. So, everyone's always level 18, everyone's always level 19. It progresses in that manner. The other thing, there's objectives that you have to accomplish. It feels more like a battleground than it does a MOBA style map. There's things you have to accomplish, there's things you have to get to, there's things you have to do in order to get the win that you're looking for, whether it be collecting skulls, defeating bosses, whether it be holding certain points on the map and gaining buffs for your team, building mercenaries, collecting gold, all kinds of cool stuff you have to do. And since the experience is shared no matter what you're doing, it really enforces the spreading out of your teammates, going out into the corners of the map and doing specific objectives and fighting in 1v1s and 2v2s. It's not all about team fights all the time. Even in the mid and late game, it's more about accomplishing specific things and allowing your team more room to do more than they would have if they were kind of locked into this 5v5 team fight type strategy where the next team fight determines the game. The next thing is there's walls, gates, and towers in this game. It is not just tower, barracks, phoenix, whatever you want to call it, and then some objective to destroy to win the game. There is walls, there are gates, there are towers. So imagine two walls, two towers, and then a gate in the middle. The gate can be passed through by the people defending, but not, of course, by the ones attacking. So, think like a WoW type style where, you look at the walls in some of the battlegrounds there where you can pass through it, or even in Guild Wars where you have the warping teleports where you're the defender, you can easily go in and out, but the attackers cannot. It's that strategy where you can destroy the walls and go around it, you can destroy the towers, destroy the gate and go through it. There's a lot of things you can do, and it's more city-based siege combat than it is just towers and pushing in towards the win. The other thing is the games are shorter. They're time-locked. Most of them, from what I could see, the few that I played there, they were time-locked, meaning that they only last a certain amount of time. It's how much you accomplish in a time limit. The games will only last a certain amount of time. They're kind of preventing the huge swing in time frame, so you can plan around it instead of being a 10-minute surrender or it being an hour-and-a-half game. Instead, it's always going to be a certain amount, and what you accomplished in that amount of time, regardless of whether or not you push down their base, will give you the win or the loss relatively to what the enemy team did, which is pretty cool, but it has some implications there, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing is that's really cool is there is going to be a queue locking system where previous to the game, if you're playing with friends and you're thinking I want to do a certain lane comp or a certain team comp or something along those lines, you can pick a character and lock it before you are put into the game, so that the pick lock can happen before the game. Again, there's implications there. It's something that's interesting and new. It has, I don't really know how they handle conflicts if both people have the same character queue locked before they go into the queue. How does it handle that? Who gets what? I don't know about that, and I didn't really try it myself, but I know they have plans to put that in. I think it actually was in the alpha build. It's super alpha right now, but it's definitely pretty polished for the level of completion that it's at. Again, support characters don't really fall behind. No one falls behind. Everyone's at the same level. Now, the next thing, there aren't items in Heroes of the Storm. There are none. The way you customize your character is through the selection of specific upgrades and abilities. Now, as you level, it will give you a selection of 3 things at a time. When you hit certain threshold points, you level up to a certain level, it'll say, do you want to add, let's say you're Illidan, it says, do you want to add immolation to you, which means you add flames around you like a tick at all times. Do you want to add that, or do you want to have plus 40 attack power, or do you want to have, your basic attacks hitting a cone in front of you? It basically is certain things that amplify your character, or buff your character, or change your character in some way. And as you go along, you select these things. There are abilities as well. You'll have QWER, which is going to be your 4 abilities, and then you can actually pick 1 and 2, and I think almost 3. From what I saw, I only got up to 2, so it was QWER 1 and 2. You can choose extra abilities. I had one where it slowed them and did damage, or took percentage of the HP out. A lot of things that go into that. So there's going to be those abilities. The other thing that's cool about it, which I think is also very fascinating, is the fact that there's not one ultimate. When you get to this stage, when you're able to select your ultimate, which I think is 10 if I remember correctly, when you hit level 10, you get your ultimate, which I believe is called Heroic Ability is what it is. That's the ultimate. But there's 3 different versions of it. So when you get to level 10 and you want your ultimate, you choose an ultimate based on your play style. So you're going to be getting that in the game. I played Illidan. You can pick one where you transform. Jim Raynor can summon a battle cruiser above him, or get banshees to follow him around, auto-attacking things. Arthas can summon the giant frost dragon that goes forward and breathes frost breath on everybody. Summon the army of dead. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with the characters you have by customizing it along the way. Now, this adds more, excitement, I guess, to it, and more simplicity, and less breadth. But it also changes how far you can go with it. It takes a little depth away, I think. The itemization in MOBAs is always very complex, and you can always seem to counter people based on the items. But it also shifts it in a different direction. So I don't know how this would work in a competitive setting. But again, we'll talk about that in a second. The other thing, like I said, it's battleground based. So you are going to do objectives, like I mentioned earlier, and this is really the focus of it. It's not about pushing down towers, getting Fire Giant, getting Kongor, getting Baron, or anything like that. It's not along those lines. It's more like accomplishing something on the map. The mines that I played the most, well, you go down. There's a top level that you mainly fight on, and there's a bottom level of mines which open up every 5 to 10 minutes, I think it's around 5 minutes the mines open up. You go down the mines and it's full of skeletons. It's kind of like the Den of Evil in Diablo, where it's just full of skeletons. You go through, kill skeletons, and collect skulls, and there's a big boss in the center of the mines where you collect skulls and kill the boss. When you kill the boss, each team summons a golem. There's 2 lanes in the map, a top and a bottom. The left team will summon a golem on the top, the right team will summon a golem on the bottom, and those golems will charge towards the enemy base and try to attack it down. Now here's the catch. Depending on how many skulls you collected before that boss died, affects how strong that golem is. So if the enemy team didn't collect any skulls at all, you have this beefy, meaty monster of a golem bearing down on their base. They still get a golem, even though they collected no skulls, but he's going to be baby. He's going to be killed off. Another cool thing as well is when those golems die, they stay in the place where they died. So when they get 5 minutes later, when the mines open up again, you can summon a new golem. They spawn where they died last. So if your golem made it all the way into their base, it's going to be spawning in their base and continuing to attack. So it's more about the objectives. It's more about the accomplishing of base destruction, acquiring of certain things. There's a map where there's a dragon shrine, where if you collect all the things and go up to the shrine, one of the players on your team can be transformed into a Dragon Knight, this huge dragon type character with new abilities, and you're supercharged and go attack people and kill everything off. It's different. It's very, very different. It shifts the focus from pushing, from itemization, from team fights and countering, to objectives, more specific on-point choices, and then takes it away from requiring certain characters to be successful, where I'm pretty sure you could win with any comp you wanted. Now, at a competitive level, I think it'll be important to have the characters that you need to build off a good team comp, but again, it's hard to be able to see that with the way the game is set up. Now, let's go ahead and hop into the competitive aspects of it. The other cool thing that there's actually skins and mounts in this game. So I guess let's talk about the first thing, skins. They're actually pretty involved. They're very specific, and this is something that no one is really surprised about. If they are continuing on with the free-to-play model, which I think they did announce, and I believe they would want to go forward with. It's hard to make games nowadays that aren't free-to-play with this kind of idea, So I assume that the skins and of course any kind of unlocking of anything would be the main source of revenue for them. But the skins are actually pretty involved. They look really cool. They have a lot of fun with it, and they actually had a lot of playable skins there already at BlizzCon. You could have like all kinds of weird stuff, as you can see on screen. They had a blue Diablo. It was like a fish-looking thing. They had all kinds of really cool things. The other thing is mounts. Since these are big maps and they're battleground based, they do give each character the ability to mount up as you would in a World of Warcraft battleground. You just press Z and it gets you up on the mount after a casting duration. Of course, knocks it off in combat. And everyone gets to customize their mounts. You could have like a cyber wolf, a basic wolf. You could run on, all kinds of weird things that were really fun and interesting. There was one where you could ride on a little small creature as Diablo, made you look really large, quite comical there. But then, the mounts really add another element to it, and really does encourage the spreading out of your team, and really builds into it and makes sure your team is always, mounting up and going off and accomplishing objectives and clearing things out. The other thing too is the jungle. The jungle in this game is different. It is kind of Warcraft 3 based, where you take your hero and a couple minions out to clear out a base, or clear out a little minion camp. It tells you what level you should be before attempting each camp, and what the camps do is they give you gold and experience, I believe, and then when you finish them, it bolsters your waves of minions. It gives you mercenaries. These mercenaries will spawn with your minions and push forward. So really the goal of jungling is just to get mercenaries for your team and then bolster up your minion waves. That's it. I mean, there's not enough minion camps for you to sustain yourself. Jungling is not a thing, but if you pass by and you see a camp you can solo or do with the duo, or do it very quickly to bolster up your wave, you definitely should do so. And I have some concerns here about the way that it is going. So, characters. The characters are going to be all characters from Blizzard's games, lore, history, all that kind of stuff. Diablo, Tyrael, all the Diablo characters, Jim Raynor, Kerrigan, the Queen of Blades, Nova, they're all there from StarCraft, Warcraft. You have all kinds of characters there. The Pandaren monks, you have all kinds of stuff being brought into it. So, it's all the characters there. So what are the roles? There are 4 roles in Heroes of the Storm. From what they have now. They may change in the future, but that's the way it is now. Warrior, which is going to be your pseudo-tank, brawler, bruiser combination. They all have different talents. Some of them are tankier, some of them are higher damage. Diablo, Stitches, who has a hook, is a giant abomination. You have people like, I think Arthas. Arthas is also a warrior. These characters are the ones that are the forefront of your team fight. Behind them will be assassins. These can be melee or ranged assassins. They can be, these are your ranged physical carries, ADCs, hunters, whatever you want to call them, as well as your melee assassins type, backstabbing type people. That is going to be your other role. So warrior, assassin. The next one is going to be support. Exactly as you'd expect, these are the support characters. They have heals, they have buffs, they have all kinds of, amplifying things that help your team successfully win in team fights. And the 4th one is called specialist. Now these are not combat characters. They don't really have abilities that do direct damage. In fact, I don't think many of them, maybe 1 or 2 of them that were available to play had it. But what these do is they can, reflect damage. They can buff minions. They can break down towers. They can do all kinds of weird stuff. Set up mines, build turrets, all kinds of stuff that would be non-combat based or indirect based, where you could do things to, it's really interesting the way they play, and it takes, I guess, more of a practiced hand or more of an intelligent focus on how you want to play them to see how you want to end up playing them. So let's go ahead and pull this card out here. This is what they gave us at BlizzCon when we were playing. See if I can't show you here. I showed it in my other vlog. You see Falstad, who's a ranged assassin, Illidan, who's a melee assassin, Kerrigan is a melee assassin, Nova is a ranged assassin, you have Vala, which I believe is a ranged assassin, Nazeeba, I think, is going to be a ranged assassin as well. Raynor is a ranged assassin. Gazlo is a support. There's Uther, who was a warrior. Malfurion was a support. Tassadar, I believe, was a warrior. May have been a melee assassin, but I think he was a warrior. Arthas was definitely a warrior. Down here at the bottom, you have Diablo, who was definitely a warrior. Tyrael was a warrior. Stitches was a warrior, and then Sonya was a warrior. So a lot of warriors and assassins in the build that they gave us. They had 1 support, or one specialist there on Gazlo, and I think only 1 support with Malfurion. Nazeeba, actually, I think was a support, now that I think about it over here. He's the witch doctor from Diablo. I think that he actually, he was the one who was a support. I can't really remember correctly. I didn't really play any of the supports. I played Illidan, who was a lot of fun. He was a very challenging character to play just because he had more combo-based abilities. You had to use one first and then the other and make choices. But, I mean, overall, it was a lot of fun. So at the base level, I think it's going to be a very successful game in the fact that it's fun and engaging. From an esports perspective, they may want to change some things, or maybe they'll have a different game mode. I don't know, because it's hard to predict esports just because when teams spend a lot of time on something, or individual players who then join a team spend a lot of time on a game, they'll develop ways to make it more competitive through repetition, through innovation, through practice, that I can't really, it's hard to see this being a high-level esport, just because, you know, the duration-based and the team-based leveling, it's hard to counter the enemy or shut them down or be able to do anything along those lines where you could absolutely just destroy them. It may come down to team fights anyways, even though it's not really based around that, which is fine. Obviously, it's not really something I'm too concerned about. But, I mean, overall, go sign up for it. Definitely opt in for it. It's a lot of fun. It's an alpha right now, and when they have a playable beta, I'm sure they'll release it for you. And if you are lucky enough to get in, you can play it, and I'm sure you'll have just as much fun as I did at BlizzCon. But as far as the competitive aspect goes, I don't know if it's there, and we'll have to wait and see if it is. I have a lot of doubts about it. But hopefully this gives you a good insight of the game and how it is played and constructed and what makes it different from the other MOBAs. Blizzard seems to be trying to innovate as much as they can on the MOBA genre and making their own spin on it. And I think it will be successful, but I don't know if it'll make it to esports status with the way it is designed now. But of course it is very, very early. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like it, favorite it, share it out to your friends. It really does help me out a lot as a YouTuber. And of course throw a comment down below with how you thought about this game, what you'll think about it in the future, and definitely what your favorite part of it was. And I'll talk to you in my next video.